single day. And every chance I had a camera in my face, I said, listen, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. And most of the players didn't agree with it. So what? Andy Reid didn't care. He still went live every single day. That's how he did his things. I don't think quarterbacks or players and head coaches have to agree on everything.
I think Rodgers, I don't love the fake news line, but aside from that, I think what he's saying is absolutely correct. Is that because Aaron Rodgers has a history of tumultuous relationships, because a lot of us saw, wow, 39-year-old first-time head coach, 35-year-old future Hall of Famer quarterback, we saw that there could be conflict. There has been an element of, are we speaking it into existence? When Aaron Rodgers says, I don't like joint practices, is that a shot across the bow at the coach? Or is that just Aaron Rodgers saying, man, I don't like joint practices. No matter who my coach is, I don't like joint practices. We talked about the audible system, when both the coach and the quarterback seemed to really be on the same page about knowing this was going to be a work in progress. And the way a lot of those discussions were couched as, is this a disaster waiting to happen? And so I understand Rodgers' frustration. Some of it's his own doing, as far as we judge you based on your history, and he has a history of some touchy relationships, and some of it's his own doing because when he does talk in front of the media every couple days like most quarterbacks do, he is a little more honest than most guys. He's less milquetoast. He's less just trying to get better today. He actually gives you what's on his mind, which gives us more ammunition to discuss what could actually be going on. But I don't blame him for being frustrated with this. I don't blame him for him saying, listen, maybe at some point we're going to have a conflict. And I'm certain there'll be a sideline blow up between coach and quarterback, as there is with most guys at some point. But why is this being discussed as if it has already happened when it has not yet? Why are people seemingly waiting for us to have a bad relationship when we don't yet have a bad relationship?
It's always puzzling to me, like just being in the league, how people aren't in the league, they would say things that would affect you. Like, why would Aaron Rodgers care that people are saying he doesn't or doesn't have a good relationship with the coach? Like, the relationship is developing, Brian. Like, it's going to happen over time. But Aaron Rodgers is very sensitive. He's got rabbit ears to everything. And Aaron's going to say what's on his mind. The joint practices, doesn't matter what the head coach said. Aaron is going to express himself. The thing about Aaron is that I have a slight issue with is there's certain things that Aaron could make better immediately by just saying one or two things. And typically, he decides to not do that.
Like what?
As far as the audible system. He could always say that it wouldn't be a problem compared to shutting down my brain, shutting down how many years I've been in the league. I don't believe that's the right thing to do. He didn't have to say that. Him and the coach can have plenty of disagreements in private. But publicly, you have to be able to put on the right face and say the right things, because the left guard's listening, the defensive tackle's listening. Right. They're not going to get interviewed. And as you go forward as a team, it helps Aaron as a leader. And those are things I still think that Aaron is still learning, even at this age.
Face of the franchise. You never really want to go against your coach. Everyone knows who Aaron Rodgers is in the NFL, especially in Green Bay. And when you're the face of the franchise, you don't have to flex. You don't have to say, hey, I'm the face of the franchise. We don't want to do things that way. You can quietly, just like you mentioned, you can quietly go to the coach and say, hey, this probably isn't a good idea. We got 5 guys hurt doing this one drill. This doesn't make sense.
Great example.
Let's be smarter. And I think Aaron can quietly do that without having to say it in the media. And unfortunately, he continues to say it in the media.
But the reason that the media brings it up and the reason he's peppered with questions every time there's a scrum or a huddle is because he's just coming out of a relationship where he didn't get along that well with his head coach, where they definitely butt heads. Maybe it was blown out of proportion or not. So I think it's an extension of, you know, all eyes are super focused right now on whether it's going to work with a new first-year head coach or not.
Yeah, of course. And because of the coach they hired, and because of the things that his lack of experience, because of his age, because it seemed like Rodgers and McCarthy went sideways at the end, even though they both deny it, even though they both right now say, no, we were fine. I think most people know that relationship had run its course.
So also the verbiage of denying it, and it really was a problem, with the verbiage of saying there's no problem now.
No, which is why I said at the front end, some of this is Rodgers' own doing. But I don't blame him for being frustrated by it. I don't blame him for saying, for feeling like there is an element of, there is not a story here, and he is right about another thing. It is the time of the year. It's the time of the year where for a week we talk about how good of an AAU dad LeBron is. It's the time of the year where there's not a lot of big stories, and so what we discuss is the biggest names and what story there is associated with it. And so we weren't talking about Aaron Rodgers and his relationship with his head coach during OTAs because the NBA Finals were going on. So I do understand Rodgers' frustration, which is we haven't yet had a conflict, and people are making there to be a conflict. That would be frustrating. Now, Chris's point of why let it bother you, Rodgers has always let this stuff. He's always said he tapes his media interviews. He listens to what people say. Yeah. He keeps score.
So if you believe that, he always has a problem with this, you'd also believe he's going to have a problem in this relationship because his parents, his siblings, his teammates, he's had problems with. Last head coach, I can guarantee you this. If Aaron Rodgers goes into Ted Thompson and them tell him, hey, man, don't fire this guy. I want him here. He'd still be there. He's not, though. So Aaron Rodgers is the last one. His relationship with Brett Favre didn't start off great. I wonder why. Because almost everyone loves Brett Favre. Sometimes it is Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is a great player. I think Matt LaFleur can say something, too. He can step up and say, listen, not every player is going to like what we're going to do here. However, we're trying to change the culture. We're trying to do something different here in Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers may not like it. And I'm not going to beef with Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to have a problem with Aaron Rodgers if I'm Matt LaFleur. However, I want to set the tone a little bit differently than what has happened in the last few years there in Green Bay.
All right, we've got to take a break. Brian, stick around. Coming up, is Antonio Brown about to retire in the prime of his career?
Oh, yeah.
That is next on First Things First.
If I'm out this next segment, he'll